क्लीं कैवल्य
Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Marga class number 3. As always, let's begin with a single Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namaste. Welcome. I'm so delighted to be here. There is so much to share in this world of yoga and the philosophy around it, and what I have gained, how I have learned to practice it, that I get very excited when there comes an opportunity to share, to teach. Having said that, I do offer my apologies for cancelling out on the Monday class and sticking to Wednesdays and Fridays. Am I right? Wednesdays, yes. Wednesdays and Fridays we have the Kaivalya Marga class. Tuesdays I've committed for now to another organization, Discover Oneness Foundation. And Mondays we'll see how we go. And I also need time to kind of gather my thoughts and prepare for each class. So let's see how it all goes. Having said that, let's come down to the Om. We discussed what Om was, and had all of the fancy drawings on my pad with the Om chant, the different awakened states and the deep sleep state. Let's see if I can get that. I think it's somewhere here. So all of this we discussed in the last class. The bottom of the Om was the awakened state, the Jagrat state. The top of the Om was a deep sleep state, because that is very close to the meditative state. And then the tail that was in between became the dream state, and so on, right? So we have this. We had a kind of a broad understanding, and we need to go on visiting that concept every time you meditate on the Om. Every time you contemplate, do the manana on the Om. Make sure that how symbolic each of these were. And if Om alone is like this, then each alphabet, in each letter in Sanskrit could mean so much. How did they come up with Sh and Sa and Ma and the Bindu, what the importance of the Bindu in Bijakshara mantras and so on. I am not an expert in Sanskrit language, so I may not be going into that kind of detail, because then it becomes purely theoretical and scholarly. And I've never been motivated to go to that depth to learn. I am an intense person. I like to go deep and learn the meanings. But if it helps me applying that in my spiritual practice, then I pursue it. If not, it kind of drifts away from my interest. So I'm not going to go into each and every letter in Sanskrit, but we will explore signs of sounds and how these mantras originated when we come across and the context presents itself. In the very beginning of the Kaivalya Marga, just like we began the day in Sai Baba's ashram when I lived, I began to understand that he asked us to begin the day with chanting of the Om. That means Om is the very beginning of everything. That is symbolic of the everyday life in the ashram at Prashanthi Nilayam. It is also symbolic of the creation itself. It all began with a small vibration. Science calls it the Big Bang, all of that, right? Everything is explained. It's the same concepts, it's just different approaches, different languages. So the Vedic seers had seen this. And every time you meditate on the Om, it is not to please any god or any deity or anything, but just to get out of that conditioned mindset. The mindset that is constantly trained to become habitual. We try to break these patterns and go beyond these patterns to a state where there is just freedom. This is what we seek in sleep, right? Oh, I'm so tired, I've been thinking, I'm just dead tired, I want to go to sleep. And you fall asleep because you're mentally tired, right? That is what stress is all about. That you have been stressed, not necessarily physically. If you are physically working hard, you may be less tired mentally, because the brain is too tired to think, and therefore you don't feel the intensity. But when you don't work physically, and most of our lifestyles don't ask for it, unless we are a farmer or a hunter or a gatherer from some kind, where we are actually on the field or working very hard, or we are in serious athletic training like a marathon or something, then the mind just shuts down because the body is so tired. Body takes over. So we do that when we go into intense yoga training, when we run a class for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. When I practice, the mind just stops thinking. You are just open to experience there at that point. But nevertheless, in normal course of every day, we don't come across these. These are exceptional situations for most of us. So what is the way out? I don't want to sleep, because sleep is not meditation. But I want to go beyond this mad monkey that just races, racing syndrome as we call it. It's habituated to that. Okay, something triggers it, and the thoughts just get piling on even before I can stop it, and then it's just gone. My emotions are running after it, and I'm either terrified or confused or upset or frustrated or angry or all of that. This happens when we watch a TV show. This happens when we listen to a conversation or engage in a conversation. We get worked up. So how do we escape from? How do we train to escape from this while being awake? In a sense of practice, Om is the answer. So in Om, what happens when I start chanting the Om, the mind is numbed. It's like, I always say, it's a buzzer sound. Like in these competitions, they have a buzzer. Of course, that buzzer is not very musical. It just goes, eh. So the buzzer is not musical. Nevertheless, is the volume too low? Okay, hang on 1 second. Well, let me see. I think I have set the volume to the max here. I'll try and speak a little louder, maybe that'll help. I don't know what else to do at this point. Anyway, some of these gadgets have some limitations. We are still learning because for each setting and things like that, we have some microphones. Today, this morning in a yoga class, our capture card driver suddenly stopped working and we had a problem. Anyway, let me come back to this. Hopefully you can hear now. I'll try and speak louder. I'll remember to speak louder. So the Om is like a buzzer sound. But it's very soothing. In other words, it's calming to the mind. It brings down your stress levels and all those things that you want to balm. You apply a balm to the wound, right? It brings down a pain. It brings down the itching sensation, or it brings down the burning sensation. All of these sensations in the skin, you have different balms. Om is one spiritual balm that you can apply to the mind across all situations. When you simply listen to the Om or when you chant. Chanting is a little more powerful. Why? Because when we have not perfected the art of mananam, the art of manasika japa. Manasika japa is mental japa, mental repetition. That is, when I'm chanting something consciously, mentally, the ability to focus on that chant comes with a lot of practice. And Om is the last thing you want to do, because as you start chanting Om mentally, the mind starts going everywhere else. For one Om it might stay, but what about the second and the third Om? So even 3 Oms you cannot hold it steady. And therefore chanting it aloud really helps. That is what Baba trained us in, and I love that. So when you listen to the sound, it goes from here, it comes in, it creates a circular energy. The sound that goes from here comes into this. So the sound creates a circular energy in which the mind gets absorbed. It just stays absorbed. And in that you begin to experience these different states of consciousness. On an everyday practice, for an everyday practice, I am going to share with you in this class what I did, how I learned and how I have practiced for the last 40 years or so, a little over 40 years, from 1979 when I went to Baba's college till 2020 now. Almost this year is halfway through already. So for the last so many years, there is only one way I know to practice these 21 Oms. That's what I did, and that has reaped so much benefits to me. I am just sharing you my method. And the reason why I'm saying I and my is not out of any pride, but just to tell you that this is just one path, not the way to do it, not necessarily the way to do it. It's up to you how you can take the 21 Oms and see how you can weave your passage through the 21 Oms. You need to have a storyline. You need to have a path. You need to have a connection, a dot that connects from one Om to the other. That way, you don't have to necessarily count on your fingers how many Oms. That storyline will take you. And at the end of the story, whatever story you are weaving for yourself in that meditation, then at the end of the story lies the 21st Om. You have to lay down that path and the story and just enjoy the journey at that point, because you don't want to be counting technically. Hey, wait a minute, was this 15 or 16? Especially in Om, it's very difficult to count Oms, because after a while your mind starts getting numb, because that's the idea. You don't want to think, right? You just want to experience the journey. So you have to set the path before and just go with the path. Just it's a very beautiful practice. It has helped me, and I wish to share that with you. That's a disclaimer. So you can weave your own path. You can get an idea from what I'm doing. And if you like this, you can try it on your own as well. This path and this meditation of the Om that I practice is based on the centers of consciousness within our body. Our body has 7 centers of consciousness, 6 basically. The 7th is not even a center. 7th is the consciousness, the ultimate consciousness of Kaivalya. So it is not in traditional Siddha path, Siddhas, especially in the south. It is always known as the Shat Chakras. Okay, the 6 chakras, Shat Chakras, and so on. There is no Sapta Chakras. You never hear of Sapta Chakras or that 7 chakras. It's more of a later addition, I would think, where they also brought in, I don't know who, but somewhere the Sahasrara also became a chakra. The Sahasrara, the 7th chakra as we understand normally, the 7th center is the ultimate, and therefore that's like your home. That's not a rest area. That's like your home. So how many stops to your home? You don't count the home as your one stop. That is the home, right? You say I have 18 stops till I get home, and if you're in a bus going home, you say I have 5 more stops. I have 6 more stops before I go home. The home is not a stop. The home is the final destination, and therefore the Sahasrara is not necessarily considered a center. And that is more of a technical understanding at this point, but also gives you an idea how to revere, how to hold this part where the planet moon signified by the moon. Now, as I explain this, we are going to visit these 6 chakras again and again, 6 plus 1. These chakras again and again and again. Chakras is a very short way of saying centers of consciousness, and that's like a long term. Instead of using all of that, I'm going to say chakras again and again throughout the Kaivalya Marga class. To me, that forms a fundamental basis of understanding who we are, appreciating who we are, and understanding and experiencing this journey, whether we are in the path of devotion or service. All of that really doesn't matter. Everything comes back to this. So the Om is chanted 21 times. 7 times 3 is 21. And so I spend 3 Oms on every center of consciousness. The last 3 being in the uppermost center of consciousness. This lecture, and for a few more lectures, we're going to understand the centers of consciousness and approach it in many, many ways. I am not going to explain these chakras in detail, what this chakra is all about now, but we are going to introduce chakra now, right? And make sure we all understand what it is and why is it in that particular place in the body, and so on. And we'll keep coming back to this. The first few weeks of this Kaivalya Marga will be dedicated to understanding the chakras, the 5 elements, the 10 senses. This is yoga anatomy. When we talk about yoga anatomy these days is, if you go to a book on yoga anatomy, it's just regular stretching anatomy, flexibility anatomy, sports anatomy, muscle anatomy, and anatomical structure of muscles and bones. And that is excellent from an exercise point of view, from understanding what happens when you do asanas. So that is completely saturated, well researched, well documented, very educational, very educated, qualified people have written those. So we got to study that. But that is, the exercise component itself is only 25 to 30% of the whole yoga path. Nevertheless, a very important component, because if the vessel is weak, if the vessel is not clean, then whatever food is cooked inside is not going to be that healthy. So Hatha Yoga plays a role. That kind of yoga anatomy that I talk about plays a role. But now what we're going to understand, in traditional yoga anatomy, if anatomy is even the right word, probably not the right word, but I'm just using it as a reference to understand what is going on inside our body. The traditional yoga understands this whole body as a conglomeration of the 5 senses, the 7 centers of consciousness, the 3 gunas. And we learn all of this. Don't worry, I'm just throwing all these terms out there. And in that understanding, in that study of that subject, you will automatically begin to experience your connection with the universe. It is natural. That kind of education is not available today for anyone who's seeking it. How are you connected? How I as an individual am connected with the universe? How can I bring that into my everyday sadhana, into my everyday practice? How can I begin to actually live in that consciousness, right? That is the key. Because unless it becomes your lifestyle, you are not a yogi. Yoga is not just exercise alone. Like I said, yoga is a lifestyle, and understanding of who I am, what is happening inside me, And me being a microscopic part of this universe, I need to understand the universe as well. So where are the planets? What chakras do the planets influence? What elements? How many elements and how they influence these centers of consciousness? How do we understand that in our everyday life? Okay, so what I did was I went, when I thought about all this, I meditated upon all this late towards the end of last year, and I said I had already started a Kaivalya Marga class. I was all excited when I started meditating. I said, this is such a big topic, such an important topic to me, and I hope you find it important as well. Such a very deep, because it affects every single human being that is interested in spirituality, as far as I'm concerned. And therefore, I needed divine blessings. I needed grace. I felt nervous, and therefore I went to South India. There are these 5 very amazing temples of Shiva, very ancient temples of Shiva, each temple representing one of the 5 elements. And we'll come to that elements today in today's class, and on Friday's class we'll complete these 21 ohms, so you will understand it completely. I went to each of these temples. I did meditation, I did puja, I stayed there for a couple of days, tuned into that energy, and went to some corner in each of these temples and actually spoke about that element and what my understanding was. And I was amazed at how the wisdom just flew. I mean, just flowed, not flew, but flowed, just flowed through me. And I'm not claiming any credit. I will be sharing those videos as we go along, because they are very important, and I want you to be in that temple as we learn this, in the very temple where these thought processes emerged, where these thought processes were shared by saints and sages thousands of years ago. I want to give you that experience of learning in the portals of these ancient temples. And so I'm blessed to have been able to do that. And hopefully I'll be continuing that. We'll see how it all goes. There are always resources that are required by way of time and money and the ability to do all of this. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, the universe is kind enough to allow me, gave me an opportunity to do that. So I have so much matter to share for now that forms a very firm, solid foundation of our understanding of where we are going. So as students of Kaivalya Marga, as students of yoga, I want you to pay attention to each of these classes and then go through them and literally learn each of these concepts in such a way that when I refer to it, you will know, aha, this is what he's talking about. Because as we go along, it gets more and more, and then we study the yoga scriptures, it becomes easy for us to understand. Without this fundamental basis, we simply throw in words like chakras and elements and sense control and mind and all. People are like, what are we talking about? We have heard all of this everywhere, right? How do we systematically learn? That was my challenge. That is why I needed that clarity. And hopefully the universe has given me that clarity. I'm saying hopefully because if there's any doubt in my mind, it's only because of my conditioned mindset. But the universe has opened the doors. I know it in my heart. Having said that, with that prayer and reverence, I begin to share. So I will start with this practice, and even though our understanding that of each of these centers and chakras are not very clear in the beginning, it won't be. It took me years to understand, and once you begin to experience, your own understanding will form clarity. Begin the practice. Don't wait for clarity to come to begin the practice. And that is why I'm introducing the concept and the practice together. So we start taking these baby steps. The baby doesn't say, I will only walk when I start walking like my dad. No, the baby learns to walk very clumsily. It falls up and down, but slowly it becomes, it learns to walk like her dad or his dad, or maybe even better, right? So that is the point here. So begin the practice. Don't wait for wisdom to come to begin the practice. It kind of goes hand in hand. So having said that, let me, I have some, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm still learning to use the whiteboard, so I'll keep that. Last time it was a little distracting to me. So let me save the slides work for now until I learn this, use a whiteboard more, much more so it doesn't interrupt in the energy flow. I believe that these spiritual lessons are learned in energy. If I don't feel it, And if that's not stored in this cosmic vibration of this recording, then you will not feel it. And that vibration that is there right now, that energy, it goes beyond time and space. It's not oh, I missed the online recording and say therefore I miss the energy of the recording. It doesn't work like that in spirituality. I believe that the whole concept of energy is beyond our scientific understanding and logical mind. So having said that, let's begin. Here the first Omkara is Mooladhara Chakra. You probably already read that in that fancy Samarkand font. If you are wondering what that font is, Samarkand, it's there in Google. You can download it on your computer. I like that. It's kind of got a Sanskriti touch to it. Sanskriti touch. Mooladhara. Moola is the foundation, the root. Moola is root, deep inside. So in our understanding, right now it will be conceptual and it's okay. In our understanding, at the very base of the spine, lies the Mooladhara center of consciousness. Okay? So the first Om is, you begin from there. Mooladhara, when you look from the top, assuming you can go up and look from the top at your own head, at your own body from here, and you say, oh, this is the mind, but they go deep inside the mind, deep inside the mind. In the Mooladhara lies the depths of your mind. That is why in Shavasana, in yoga practice, for those of you who attend the yoga classes, we say at the base of the spine, relax those muscles and let go of the memories, because in the base of the spine, in the Mooladhara, in the root level, we begin to accumulate memories of lifetimes that stays there. And when we get visions of this chakra, and as you progress in meditation, if and when, then don't look for these things. If it happens, it happens. All of these experiences come in so many million ways. Allow the divine to guide. When I talk about something like this, don't say, when will it happen to me? But when you look down and go deep inside, you will actually go through lifetimes and see, where was the seed sown? What was that? What were the fears that I'm still carrying now? And it's amazing how that discovery comes, and you come back and say, now I understood. Why am I where I am now at this place? What is it that's driving me? Mooladhara is a very powerful place. So Mooladhara is at the base of the spine. The exact spot and all of that we will understand. So for now, the first Om, when you do, let's try and do that together. You take in a deep breath, and as you begin the Om, just shift your awareness all the way down to the base of the spine and just think about that spot. That's all you need to do. Become aware of the base of your spine, the region of the anus, if you will. So let's try. Take a deep breath. I believe there is some static in my mic, but I'm not sure how to tackle that problem. I don't hear it, so I apologize. I will continue because I don't know how to do this, how to tackle that issue. Let me see if I can. Let's see if this helps a little bit. Well, let's continue. So the Mooladhara, the first Om, you just shift your awareness all the way down to the bottom of the spine. And is that okay? All right. Okay. We'll try and do some more testing. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too disturbing. The Mooladhara, so once I finish the first Om, I have to first be clear where exactly it is. That is why I said base of the spine, tailbone. Right? At this point, think of that entire region, the region of the anus that forms the Moola, the base. When you sit, that from there it is. Okay, that is the Mooladhara. Moola Adhara, that is the base. Adhara is foundation, the root, the foundation of all the consciousness that comes, every creative arts and all of that comes above. That fundamental chakra is there. At this point, let's understand that. The second Om, okay, the slide has changed to second Om. I've just changed one word there because we're going to spend 3 Oms on each of these centers of consciousness, on each chakra. The second contemplates on what is the main element that this earth is about, this center of consciousness is about. The Mooladhara, the foundation chakra, if you will, the root chakra as it is known in English, Mooladhara Chakra is predominantly powered, sustained and built by the elements of the earth. It represents the earth energy. In other words, matter, physical things, atoms, molecules, electrons, protons and so on, all building blocks of matter. This entire physical universe that you see around is in the root of that is the Mooladhara. So the second Om, when you chant, you meditate on the earth element. What does matter mean to you? What does that word matter mean to you? And matter is heavy. So where does matter go and settle? At the base, right? You throw a stone into a well, where does it go? It goes all the way down. You throw a cotton ball up, it comes all the way down, settles on the ground. So anything with matter goes all the way down and settles at the bottom. What is that bottom? The bottom is that the lowest chakra in our body. So when we do the second Om, you meditate on the energy of the earth, what earth means to you, the heaviness of the earth, the density of the earth element, of matter itself. And just focus on earth, the energy of the earth. There is nothing good or bad about any element, right? Don't say, oh my gosh, earth is heavy and this and that, or bad or good. No, it is just what it is. It's an element and it's part of who we are. Matter. So when we do the second Om, let's try that. Think of the earth element and feel it in the Mooladhara. So in Mooladhara, you add the earth element now to the Mooladhara and understand the quality of Mooladhara. What is the nature of Mooladhara? Earth, matter. Let's try that. Taking a deep breath. So in the first Om, you focused where it was, focused on the region. The second Om, you focused on the earth element and paid your homage. This is all a reverential approach to elements because they are part of who we are, right? So the earth, you can understand that as Bhudevi, the divine energy of Shakti and so on. It's all up to you. That's why I said weave your story around this, but eventually understand this. This is matter. This is Prakriti. One of the building blocks of Prakriti, earth, matter. Then comes the third Om. The third Om is now associated. Okay, so this is everywhere. How do I experience this earth element? These are all fundamental blocks of this yoga anatomy I'm talking about, correct? So I'm going to introduce this. We're going to revisit it again and again for more clarity. So don't expect me to just stop here and explain all about it right here. I could have done that. I thought about it, but then we'll never finish and you'll never get to start practicing the Om. So I wanted to get you started off, and then keep revisiting. So your practice of Om becomes richer and richer as you attend more and more of the Kaivalya Marga class. So practice these with a lot of patience. Mooladhara. The third Mooladhara is associated with one of the senses, and in this case, the sense of smell, the nostrils. The sense of smell is associated with Mooladhara. We're taking out the 5 simple senses for now. Okay, there are other 5 more senses. We'll talk about that later. First, let's get this clear. The sense of smell, nostrils, is associated with matter. What is the connection? Let's say you go on a vacation and you come back home after a long vacation. You open the door and there is some smell in the house. And based on the smell, you wonder, wait a minute, is there some little mouse dead somewhere? What is the smell I'm getting? Is it smells like a gas? Different kind of smell. I'm just taking some example of dead mouse. Or some gas smell is coming. Is a cylinder open? The smell makes you look for what? An object, right? The smell, if there is smell, there is always a matter that is emitting that smell. There is always a matter. A physical object is the one that has the property of smell. Does water have smell? Well, water can get dirty and can get smelly. That's different. But water by itself, no smell. When the rain falls, there is no smell. When it touches the earth, the smell from the earth comes. Earth has smell. Right? That is why in the worship we offer Gandham Samarpayami, Prithvi Atmane Gandham Samarpayami. From this earth element, I offer smell to the divine. You offer that senses to the divine. That's how it comes in worship. We'll study that. But the point here is earth has smell. Every object has a property of smell associated with it, physical. So the third thing that you begin to understand is the sense of smell and earth. So in the third Omkar, what do? You focus on the nostrils and pay attention to the smells that you feel. At that moment, you can also do that. If there's an agarbatti there, you're going to feel the smell, and that's perfectly okay. Or simply become aware that every time I'm very preoccupied with the sense of smell, there is the earth element that is active in me. So let's do a third Om. This time, think of the sense of smell. Just contemplate on that. Manana as you do the third Om. Take a deep breath. These 3 Oms, the first 3 Oms, cover the first center of consciousness, the basic center of consciousness. So you are spend, depending on the length of the Om and the gap between the Oms, you get time to meditate on the center of consciousness. That's called the Mooladhara Chakra. I know we talked about Om from awakened state to deep sleep and to Turiya Avastha. All that will come with practice. That is just the basic theoretical conceptual framework, if you will. Let that sink deep in your unconscious. Keep visiting that. But in the practice, begin to practice what I can feel, what I can see, what I can experience. This is part of who I am. And then the who I am becomes more and more higher and takes you there. So that is the Mooladhara. Let us go to the next center of consciousness, which is called the Swadhisthana, which is a couple of inches or an inch above. They're not equally spaced from here to here. I wish it was, right? It would have been easier, but it's not like that. An inch or two above. Like I said, we'll talk about the exact location as we go along. At this point, just understand that in the region of the sexual organs, slightly above the anal region, The anal region is right at the bottom, slightly above that in the spine. Okay, if this is the anal region, slightly above that here, because the next one is going to be much above. So here is the Swadhisthana Chakra. Swadhisthana. Swad means taste. Swad means Swa Adhisthana. It also means Swa Adhisthana. Swa is self. So many times we begin to understand this chakra as this is what it is all about. This is my home. Swadhisthana, Swa Adhisthana. This is where I am. This is who I am. And we identify ourselves with this center of consciousness for the most part. Why? Because this center deals with the water element, and the water element is connected to our senses, all the senses, but in predominantly the sense of taste. We'll come to that. But here the second center is a couple of inches above the Mooladhara. So let us understand that and shift our awareness to the part around the sexual organ, slightly above the Mooladhara. So you take a deep breath. In the fourth Om. Beautiful. As we go along, we will understand why we do bandhas in yoga and how physically you can actually begin to focus in such a manner that you will actually begin to understand, pinpoint exactly what I'm looking at, where I'm focused. But it comes generally like this. So get a general understanding at this point. Keep on practicing, and slowly you'll begin to pinpoint exactly what is this location inside my body that I'm focusing on. Swadhisthana Chakra. So the region of the sexual organs. Now what element does this pertain to? As I explained a few seconds ago, the Mooladhara is earth. This one is water, matter, liquids. We call it water, apaha, jala, apaha in Sanskrit. Liquids, understand it as liquids. All of our body is filled with blood and sweat and tears and urine and all of that, right? But all of that is from this center of consciousness. This center of consciousness is what controls it and activates that element. As far as the earth element is concerned, the flesh, the bones, the hairs and nails and all of this physical part of our body is controlled by the Mooladhara Chakra, the earth element. The water inside our body, the fluids inside our body, the waters of the earth, controlled by the Swadhisthana Chakra. These centers of consciousness are not just limited to being within the body. And if it's difficult for you to understand, just let it be for now. But I feel at this moment I'd explain this. These centers of consciousness are small microscopic representations of the actual divine centers that exist at a universal level. Just as I am a microscopic part of this macrocosm that we call the world and the cosmos. Similarly, in the astral plane, if you will, just let's keep that like that. In the subtle planes, in the other dimensions, there are centers of consciousness of the Purusha itself. If Shiva were to meditate, then we are all, our earth element are small, minute particles, our Mooladhara, minute particles of his Mooladhara. There is a divine center of consciousness. That is why I said in each center there is the Om. And in each Om there are these three or four or five states of consciousness. So in each So it gets so deep in each of the chakras, and each of them becomes so divine, because when you meditate on the Mooladhara, you're actually touching upon the Shiva's consciousness's Mooladhara. And when those centers open, that is where your consciousness becomes cosmic in nature. It is a very, very beautiful experience. Very, very beautiful experience. You come back, you're always transformed from that understanding. That is why Adi Shankara sang Shivoham. I am not the body, I am not the mind. Okay, I am pure Shiva consciousness. Because in that consciousness, you will be experiencing that enlightened state of awareness. Let that be. So this water element here, the center of consciousness, reminds you of that grand cosmic consciousness. Here we meditate on the water element inside our body. Blood, sweat, and think of all the water element as you chant this Om, and know that this 2 inches above the Mooladhara, in the region of the sexual organ, lies the center that controls the water element in your body. It's important for us to understand all this and appreciate all this, because when we talk of illnesses and diseases in the body, we'll begin to analyze it from the elemental balance, like imbalance created by which element is causing this. Okay, that is why I said it's important for us to be very clear and revisit it every day in our practice. So even if you're doing 7 Oms a day, take 1 Om per chakra. If you do it 21 times, which is nice, then take 3 Oms for every chakra, and I'm giving you the long version of it. So in this Om, let us meditate on the water element. Take a deep breath. I'm shortening the Om so that just to give you a flavor of what we are talking about. That forms Om number 5. Then we come to Om number 6. So which sense organ is primarily linked to the water element? It's right there on the slide in front of you. Sense of taste, tongue. The tongue is never dry, right? It is swirling in saliva. And so the tongue is the sense organ that connects you to the water element in your body. We have to understand this when we talk about senses, sense control, and all of that. Why there is so much importance to in yoga, in generally in spiritual practice. Why do they say control your tongue? Not about speaking, that comes later, but just a matter of taste. Why do we need to? That is why fasting and all of that was introduced, to control the water element in your body. Excess of water is controlled, because excess of water, imagine a storm in a sea, imagine hurricanes, right? It's excess of wind and water. So how do you calm that? Allow it to dry a little bit. So fasting was introduced. Fasting was introduced on particular days of the lunar phase. We'll see how it allows us to link all of this in our practice. But I'm just giving you these concepts to think about how deeply these were rooted in the Indian psyche, or the yogic psyche rather, and understanding the linkage between water element and tongue. So that is why when we are sick, it is imbalance. A lot of systemic diseases, diabetes for example, is an imbalance of the water element, either excess or less. And therefore, what do they say? Control your tongue, don't eat sweets, don't do this, don't do that. So it's all about tongue related. So we have to understand that tongue is linked to the water element. The water element is in the region of the sexual organs. The earth element is in the region of the anus. And we'll explore this more in detail. At this point, just let the next Om, where you contemplate on the sense of taste. Don't say I have to control my tongue, I have to control sense of taste and all that. Don't make up your mind in this. This is just creating awareness. The Om is just going to lift your mind above thinking. Don't do resolutions while you're chanting the Om. Okay? Just become aware. oh, this tongue is connected to the Swadhisthana Chakra in my body. Let's try that. Take a deep breath. Wonderful. So there we completed 6 of them. Let's keep going. Manipura Chakra. We'll perhaps be done with the Manipura Chakra. So let's see how it goes. We still have about 10 minutes. Manipura Chakra is now quite a few inches above the sexual organ. It's in the region of the navel. Fairly easy to understand, right? Region of the navel. That is the Manipura Chakra. All around the stomach. You can consider all of that at this point, that broad place behind your belly button. That is the region of the Manipuraka. Manipuraka is translated as Mani is jewel, a crest jewel. A jewel is formed. A jewel is formed there. We'll explore that later. I'm resisting the temptation of going too much into these explanations and distract you. But understand that as a crest jewel. This is the place where the I begins to form. The consciousness begins to form an I. Okay. This is where the energy, when it rises, actually enters into the Sushumna and begins to work. It's a very beautiful point. This is where the awakening happens. So Manipuraka, Mani, that's why it's called a Manipuraka, crest jewel, chakra of the crest jewel. A jewel is brilliant, right? It shines. A more simpler way to understand. A jewel is simple, it shines, that's why it's called a jewel. There's brilliance in it. And this represents the next element. So let us now, before I go to that, let us do one Om and meditate on the navel region. Let's see how that feels. Take a deep breath. You can focus on the belly button at this point, the navel, right there, as you do this Om. Right? The first one is the anal region, the second one is the region of the sexual organs, the third one is the region of the navel. Just focus on that region. This is where the third chakra is. Begin to understand it. Begin to appreciate an existence of an energy pattern where our mind, if you will, quote unquote, I'm saying quote unquote because where the mind begins to rest at different points of time. When you do satsang, the mind rests in a different center of consciousness. When you are fast asleep, the mind perhaps goes all the way back down to Mooladhara, because that is where your subconscious mind gets active and you begin to see dreams and all of that. Giving an example there. So these are kind of things where the mind rests in different times. When you are indulging sensually in tasty food, for example, and you are enjoying this tongue, oh my God, this tastes so awesome. Guess where your mind is? In the region of the sexual organs, the Swadhisthana Chakra. That is where it is. If you are, I'm just throwing these ideas, we're going to keep revisiting again. Don't think about it. But I'm trying to clarify for you to understand, open your mind, that this is not some weird mystical connection and has no connection, but this is how the connection is made. The Manipuraka, when you talk of ego, I, me, mine, boundaries, this is my house, your house, all of that begins to form in the Manipuraka. The I begins to form in the Manipuraka. That is why it's called the Manipuraka, region of the navel. Meditate upon that as you become aware of where the center of consciousness is. What is the element? Because of the jewel is bright and brilliant, fire or light is the element. Why is it brilliant? Because the light shines on it, right? The jewel becomes alive when the light is shining on it. fire element, Agni, heat, electricity, electromagnetism in the universe, plasma, Tejas, all these are what we talk of or refer to when we call fire element, Tejas, Agni as we call light, this portion. That is why in your body there is the digestive juices, the Agni element, the fire element. The element, what is main quality of fire element? It has the power to transform matter into energy. It has the power to transform matter from one set of properties to another set of properties. What transfers the nice tasty food that goes into fecal matter? What is it that's transforming inside your body? Your stomach, the digestive juices, the acids in your stomach, the Agni in your stomach. So think of the digestive juices as representations of the Agni element. That's why heartburn happens here, right? It's related to digestion, it's related to eating, and so on. So there's a whole lifestyle around how to preserve the Agni element. In the Bhagavad Gita, the importance of this element, please don't undermine the importance of this chakra. This is the most amazing chakra. That is why in Hatha Yoga practice, for those of you who attend my classes, I go on saying, especially in the intermediate classes, we haven't started that in the beginners classes at the time of doing this class. We haven't started that yet, but I go on repeating, hold your stomach in, because you activate the Agni in you. Let's hold that thought. So the Agni element is what is Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. What does he say? Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha. Praninam Deha is body, Praninam, among all the living beings in their bodies. Aham, I, Vaishvanaro Bhutva, Vaishvanara Agni. I reside as a Vaishvanara Agni in the divine living beings, as a divine energy in the living beings. This fire symbolizes longevity. The health of this fire symbolizes health, symbolizes longevity. That is why in traditional yoga, there is not too much emphasis on what to eat, what not to eat. They emphasize that keep this fire so powerful that it can digest poison itself. Not that you must indulge in poison, but I'm just giving you an idea as to how much emphasis in traditional yoga, this thousands of years ago, where they would just keep this so brilliant that it could digest anything. And that is why Agni is very important. Agni element. So think of that Agni element, the fire in your body, the digestive juices in your body, your digestion capability at this point, and invoke. These are all energies which are linked to divine consciousness. Okay, this is where it gets mystical, right? Crazy. But I love it because you can actually talk to this energy. In other words, communicate with this energy and feel this energy, revere this energy, invoke this energy from within. That is why it is in this context that the Vedic culture introduced Agni Devata. Because how do you relate to an Agni element, electromagnetism? Can you talk to electricity and suddenly expect it to say, hi, I'm here in your socket, how are you? It doesn't work like that. But in order to reverentially approach this energy, to open your mind to greater understanding, you begin to communicate in terms that you can understand. I communicate to whom? To another being. So I create this energy, a form to this energy, a name to this energy, and deal with it as if it's another human being. The beauty in modern science, and I'm not a big fan of comparing science and spirituality, but wherever I can, I bump into something, I read, I share. And I read recently about how in meditation, when they put all these sensors and were meditating what is happening in the brain of some Buddhist monks, they said the brain does not distinguish between whether you're speaking to an imaginary person or whether you're speaking to a real person. The brain does not distinguish much. There may be some neurophysicians in this group as you listen, and you might kind of link to it. I'm not a physician in that sense. I may not be technically correct in the way I put it across, but something for you to do some research. The brain does not distinguish between whether you're in your mind, if you're talking something angrily or otherwise, The brain does not know you're actually thinking about a real person or imaginary person, because that is in your mind, right? The brain treats both equally. In other words, the reactions in your brain is the same. And this was discovered by the Vedic seers a long time ago. They said then when you deal with these abstract energies, rather than losing yourself and not knowing what to do, communicate with that energy. And so it becomes an experience in your brain to understand, oh gosh, I am actually communicating with this energy. And so this divine consciousness in that energy begins to once again awaken. And that when that divine consciousness awakens, that consciousness is the same that created this universe, right? So balance and everything and health comes back. So it doesn't sound that mystical or that crazy, correct? That voodoo. It's not. It's a very divine meditative approach to elements. And that is why they said worship Agni Devata, worship water Devata, and so on. So let us do this and just come to the fire and just touch upon the sense of, maybe I don't have time for that. So let us do this Om, thinking of the fire element. Take a deep breath. Beautiful. And lastly, this is so important that all of this we are going to revisit again and again. So don't think I'm dealing with it in a very short because I ran out of time. We're going to come back to it again and again and again. The whole yoga practice is revisiting and understanding these 5 elements. And in that understanding, you'll begin to know your own divine nature. I promise you, if you are in this path, there is only joy. It's a joyful journey of self-discovery, self-actualization, self-enlightenment. The sense of sight, eyes, is connected to the fire element. Taste, tongue, connected to Swadhisthana. Nose, connected to the anus. Eyes, connected to the fire element. Because you can't see, there is no light, correct? Because of the sun, you are able to see around. So because of Agni, you can see. Light and eyes are connected. In this Om, as we end this class with 1 Om and 3 Shantis, think of the fire element. Let's pay homage to this divine Krishna energy who says, I reside in your body as Vaishvanaro Bhutva. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Prana Apana Samayuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidam, and I digest all the food. So let's invoke with great reverence this fire element and bring this class to an end. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for patience. I hope to see you this Friday for class 4, where we'll continue understanding the Om and the chakras. Take a deep breath. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om.